And now with me is Erica Spencer, who's standing in Ramsey. Only a couple of weeks ago there was no one, then everyone's coming out. Were you a last minuter, or had you been planning and it just happened that everyone sort of announced at the same time?
It's something I've been thinking about for a while. I was in politics when I lived across in Manchester. I wasn't really a last minuter. I've been getting my manifesto and things like that all put together. I wanted to make sure that I got everything right before I put it out there. So I suppose I'm kind of in the middle, really.
Right. I mean, some people, obviously, the reaction to the marina seems to be a massive, suddenly event. Was that on your hit list, or is it on your list now? How do you view it?
Paul, I'm an ecologist by training, and I know that part of what they want to do will be extracting 500,000 cubic metres of sand from the Marine Nature Reserve. The Marine Nature Reserve supports habitat which is very rare on the Isle of Man, and also captures and keeps carbon. There's many reasons why we shouldn't have a housing development or a marina in that particular place.
So you're against the whole thing full stop?
I'm totally against it. I've always been against it. I was against the marina several years ago that would have blocked up the Sulby River for some part. I'm not against the idea of a marina in the old part of the river, and I'm certainly not against regeneration of the town. The reason that I'm standing is really because I love Ramsey, and I feel very proud to be part of the Ramsey community. I think we have a real buzz, and we're all very proud of our town. There's lots of things that we would like to see in addition to what we have. One of the main issues that we have island-wide really is the lack of housing for people, particularly younger people, and that's something that I'd very much like to push if I was elected.
And your solution being what?
My solution would be initially to look at the way that we support young people to get their first deposit, to get a mortgage, etc. It may well be that that's not enough, and that we need to look at more first-time buyer houses, and then we need to examine the areas that we would put them. Some applications come forward in places like there's one at the moment which is on a floodplain, so we've got to make sure that if we do build more houses for people, they're in the right place. They're in a place which for the environment is sustainable.
Are there places in Ramsey that
there
can
are
do this?
Places. There's quite a large estate off Gardeners Lane in West Ramsey, and there are proposals for more houses there, and there's quite a lot of provisions, quite a lot of room.
But the prices won't be necessarily that cheap even for first-time buyers. I mean, we're hearing now massive inflation in building prices, aren't they?
Well, I was looking at the housing report for last year, and they say that the average price starts at around about 250,000, which, if you look at the price of property, that seems quite.
It's all about the gearing, isn't it? How many times your salary, isn't it?
It's all about that. But when you think, you may well have left university and you've got debts already, and now if you want to start a family or have your own home, you're looking at a substantial mortgage. It's frightening, and it's not doable for an awful lot of people. So we need to examine that, and we're going to end up with a disproportionate population on the Isle of Man, and we're going to lose our young people who have the skills for the future work.
You want to broaden the employment as well. I think that's on your list.
Very
Can you
much
explain
so.
that?
Yeah. The Isle of Man, like the rest of the world, needs to look at new technologies and ways that we can embrace this. Alternative energies, digital technology. We need to broaden our horizons really to compete on the world market. So we need to train people in these new skills, and what I would like to suggest or propose is that we come up with initiatives to attract businesses and companies to Ramsey, and not only to Ramsey but obviously to the other larger towns around the island. And we could even go a step further and devolve government offices to towns like Peel.
Has been looked at, hasn't it? I mean,
it has been looked at, but there'll be so many benefits.
We've got St John's going on. Yeah,
St John's is brilliant, and we have the Eco Building, and it's a flagship.
Yeah.
Fantastic. If we could have more property like that, that would be fantastic. But don't forget, if we've got jobs in the town, we've also got people in their lunch hour, they're going to spend money, they may be looking to settle there, etc. It would have a large knock-on effect.
Some might say about the marina would do that as well, but I'm not going to go back to that one. The courthouse, one person I've heard refer to the courthouse, because that was a big thing all those years ago. Now it's gone quite quiet, but you still got that one on your sites, have you?
Well, I've mentioned the courthouse because what I'd absolutely love to see is more sort of vibrant community life in Ramsey. Years ago we used to have a cinema, we had dance halls, etc. And I think somewhere like the courthouse, not necessarily that building, but the courthouse is sitting there, it's right in the middle of town. Could we not open it up, put things on in the day for maybe old people, maybe in the evening for young people, places for youngsters to hang out, watch films, put on theatre, etc., exhibitions, a real community hub where everybody feels they have an investment, where people can get together. They do that on small islands in Scotland, Shetland and that. To get through the winter, people come together and people aren't so isolated. And don't forget, this also knocks on to your mental health as well, which is another issue.
Let me move you on because of time. If you got in, where would your skill set be best used? Would you want to be in government or just backbenching? How would you want to do it?
It depends really where I would be best suited. I'd be more than happy to be in government. I've worked for government for a number of years in a few departments. I know how government works. I've got the confidence to work in government.
You know how it works, so you know it's. Everyone says it's silos and things. You agree with that? It needs a lot of work on it, or are you happy the way it's going?
I think possibly the red tape slows down the wheels of government, but a lot of that is necessary for things like trading with the wider world, etc. If we could trim that down, that would be superb.
But the government's saying on more people in the last 5 years. Do you see that's good or bad? The size of government.
I understand what people are saying, and of course there's the pressure that puts on wages, on government spending, etc. But we are a more multifaceted society these days. We have things like GDPR, we have more health and safety, we have stricter regulations, as I've just said. There's more paperwork to trade now we've left the EU. So probably that's why we've got more people. If we wanted to trim them down, I certainly wouldn't like to suggest that people lost their jobs, but maybe looking at part-time working.
And just back to where would you be best fitting? I think we've got quite an answer there looking back at it. Which department would you like to work in?
Right, sorry, I got sidetracked.
That's right, I know, me too.
Yes. Which department would I like to work in? Well, I suppose because my background is ecology, I'm an environmentalist, probably DEFRA, I would think, and work with the great people who work in DEFRA already and try and push forward. And
how have you raised this government? I mean, the lockdown, all those sort of things, briefly?
I think there's a long way to go. I think COVID has made things very difficult for this government, and it would be unfair to point the finger and to say that mistakes have been made because nobody had a dry run, did they? We never even heard of COVID-19 up till a couple of years ago. I think this government has done the best with the tough deal that they've received, but I think we can possibly do better, and now is a time for change and more vigour. Let's see some action.
And if you didn't get in this time, would you be coming back again? You see yourself as putting yourself forward, to keep...
Well, if I got in, I would like to be someone who pushed to make things happen. I really want to see change. I want to see progress now. And I wouldn't be afraid to stand up and say that. So whether you'd want me back in, I don't know.
Who would you want as a Chief Minister?
Oh, I thought you might ask me
that. Well, I do sometimes
ask
that, most times actually.
Okay, I'm going to say Alf Cannon because I've met him in Ramsey a few times. So sorry, Alf, but it's based on no more than that.
Well, of course, you will get more than that because there'll be the much more detailed breakdown. Yeah. So you're not firmly committed, therefore you might be floating on it. It just
seems unfair to say one person and then not say anybody else.
Indeed, and we don't know who's standing yet. But it's good to hear that you've got an idea as it stands who you want. And you'd be there banging for Ramsey, obviously, all the issues that are going to be going on there.
Absolutely.
But national as well.
National, obviously, because Ramsey doesn't sit in isolation, but my heart is Ramsey.